My name is Sarah. I am 32 years old, and as I watched the taillights of my best friend's Range Rover disappear into the rain, I realized the vibrating phone in my hand had just gone dead silent because she had blocked my number. I stood there in the hospital parking lot, clutching a folder full of ultrasound photos that were supposed to be a celebration, feeling the cold water soak through my sneakers. Inside my body, a 20-week-old baby boy kicked against my ribs. He wasn't my son. Biologically, he belonged to the woman driving away. But in that moment, as the rain mixed with the tears on my face, I realized I was the only person left in the world who wanted him. Before I tell you how I survived the next 5 months and the legal war that followed, I want to gently mention that this story involves high-risk pregnancy, medical trauma, and deep emotional betrayal. So please take care of yourself while listening. If you have ever felt completely abandoned in a moment where you needed support the most, please like this video so we can support each other in the comments. To understand how I ended up alone in that parking lot, you have to understand Jessica. We had been inseparable since college. Jessica was the girl who always got what she wanted. She was beautiful, wealthy, and married to a successful architect named Mark. I was the quiet one, the steady one, the one who was always there to pick up the pieces when her dramatic life hit a speed bump. When Jessica found out she couldn't carry a pregnancy due to a uterine issue, she was devastated. I held her while she cried on her bathroom floor. "It's not fair, Sarah," she sobbed, gripping my hand so hard it hurt. "I have the nursery, I have the money, I have the love. I just need a body that works." I watched her struggle for 2 years with failed surrogacy agencies and endless waiting lists. She became a shell of herself. Then, one night over wine, she looked at me with those big, tear-filled eyes. "You could do it," she whispered. I froze, the glass halfway to my mouth. "What?" I asked. "You're healthy. You've had a baby before," she said, referring to my daughter Mia, who was 7 at the time. "Sarah, you're the only person I trust. Please, I'll pay for everything. I'll take care of you. Just give me this family." I wanted to say no. My life was simple. I worked as a freelance graphic designer, I was a single mom, and I didn't need the complication. But looking at my best friend's pain, I couldn't refuse. "Okay," I said softly, "let's do it." I thought I was giving a gift. I didn't know I was signing a contract with someone I didn't really know at all. The process was grueling. The injections, the hormones, the endless appointments. But Jessica was there for every single one. She brought me smoothies. She rubbed my feet. She bought me expensive toys. "You're an angel, Sarah," she would say, glowing with excitement. "We're going to be parents because of you." When the transfer worked, we screamed and jumped up and down in the clinic waiting room. It felt like a movie. The first trimester was rough, morning sickness that lasted all day, fatigue that made my bones ache, but Jessica was supportive. She sent grocery deliveries and checked in 3 times a day. "How is *R* Peanut doing?" she'd text. Everything was perfect. Until the morning of the 20-week anatomy scan. I remember the room was freezing. Jessica was sitting in the chair next to the bed, holding Mark's hand, her knuckles white. The technician was chatty at first, pointing out the hands and the feet. "Look at those long toes," she laughed. Jessica was beaming. "He's going to be tall like Mark." Then the room went quiet. The technician stopped talking. She kept moving the wand over the same spot on my lower stomach, pressing harder. I felt a cold knot form in my chest. "Is everything okay?" I asked. The technician didn't look at me. "I just need to get the doctor to take a look at a few images," she said, her voice tight. "Don't move." She left the room. The silence that followed was heavy enough to crush us. "It's probably nothing," Mark said, but his voice cracked. Jessica stood up and started packing. "Why did she leave? Sarah, did you feel anything wrong?" "No," I said, my heart pounding. "He's been moving fine." When the doctor came in, he didn't smile. He sat down and turned the monitor toward us. I'm afraid we've found some significant anomalies, he said gently. He used words like spina bifida and severe hydrocephalus. He talked about surgeries within hours of birth, about the likelihood of never walking, about potential cognitive delays, and a lifetime of specialized care. I looked at the screen, at the grainy black and white image of the little boy I had been talking to for 5 months. I felt a wave of protective, fierce love wash over me. Then I looked at Jessica. She wasn't crying. She was staring at the doctor with a look of pure horror, but not the kind of horror a mother feels for her child's pain. It was the horror of someone who had ordered a designer dress and received a stained rag. "But can it be fixed?" Jessica asked, her voice sharp. "We can manage the condition," the doctor explained. "But this will be a permanent disability. He will require significant assistance." Jessica stood up abruptly. "I can't do this," she said. The doctor looked confused. "I can give you some time to process." "No," Jessica snapped. "I mean, I can't have this baby. This isn't what we signed up for." I sat up on the exam table, wiping the gel off my stomach with a paper towel, my hands shaking. "Jess," I said softly, "he's still your son." She spun around to face me, and I saw a stranger in her eyes. "He's broken, Sarah," she hissed. "We wanted a family. We wanted to travel. We wanted a normal life. I am not spending the next 40 years changing diapers for a vegetable." "Don't call him that," I said, my voice rising. "He is a baby." "He is a medical liability," she shouted. Mark tried to touch her arm. "Jess, honey, let's just go outside and talk." She shook him off and grabbed her purse. "There is nothing to talk about. I'm not taking that baby." She stormed out of the room. Mark looked at me, his face pale, mumbled a sorry, and ran after her. I was left alone with the doctor. He looked at me with pity. "I'll give you a moment," he said quietly. I got dressed in a daze. My mind was racing. She's just in shock, I told myself. She doesn't mean it. She's grieving the idea of the perfect baby. She'll come around. I walked out to the parking lot. It had started to rain. I saw their car, the engine running. I walked up to the passenger window and tapped on the glass. Jessica wouldn't look at me. She was staring straight ahead, typing furiously on her phone. Mark rolled the window down 2 inches. "Sarah," he said, and he sounded exhausted. "We need space." "Mark, you can't just leave," I said, rain dripping off my nose. "We have to make a plan. There are specialists we can see." "We're done, Sarah," Jessica said from the passenger seat, still not looking at me. "What do you mean done?" I asked. "I am 20 weeks pregnant with your child." "Not anymore," she said. "Check the contract. There's a clause about quality of life. We are terminating the agreement." My breath caught in my throat. "You can terminate a contract, Jess," I said, my voice shaking. "You can't terminate a person who is kicking my ribs right now. I'm halfway through. I can't just stop being pregnant." "Then that's your problem," she said. She finally looked at me, and her eyes were dead. "Get an abortion. I'll pay for it, but I am not taking that thing home." "He is not a thing," I screamed, slamming my hand on the car door. "Drive, Mark," she commanded. "Jess," Mark started. "Drive," she screamed. Mark flinched and put the car in gear. I stepped back as the tires splashed muddy water onto my jeans. I watched them drive away until they turned the corner onto the main road. I stood there for a long time. Then I pulled out my phone to call her, to beg her to come back, to scream at her. The call went straight to voicemail. I tried to text. Message not delivered. She had blocked me. I was standing in a puddle, alone, with a baby who had just been sentenced to a lifetime of struggle, and the only 2 people who were supposed to love him had just fired him like a bad employee. But as I stood there, feeling the rain soak through my shirt, something happened. The baby kicked. It was a strong, deliberate thump, right against my hand. It felt like a handshake. It felt like he was saying, "I'm still here." I wiped the rain from my eyes and walked to my beat-up Honda Civic. "Okay," I whispered to the empty car. "It's just us then." The next few weeks were a blur of panic and lawyers. I went to see a legal aid attorney, a sharp-eyed woman named Mrs. Alvarez. She read through the surrogacy contract, her eyebrows climbing higher and higher. "This is a mess," she said, taking off her glasses. "The contract says they have rights to the child, but it also says they can dissolve the agreement if there are medical anomalies." "So they can just walk away?" I asked, feeling sick. "They can stop paying you the surrogacy fee," she said, "but they can't just walk away from parental responsibility. However, it's complicated. If you keep the baby, you technically become the legal guardian by default if they surrender rights. But since the embryo isn't genetically yours, you'd have to adopt him." "Adopt him?" I laughed, a hysterical sound. "I'm the one giving birth to him." "The law hasn't caught up to the science, honey," she said. I went home and looked at my bank account. I had $4,000 in savings. Jessica had stopped the payments immediately. I couldn't afford a special needs baby. I barely afforded my apartment. I sat Mia down that night. She put her hand on my belly. "Is the baby coming to live with us?" she asked. I had told her I was growing the baby for Auntie Jessica. "Auntie Jessica isn't going to be the mommy anymore," I said carefully. "Why?" Mia asked. "Because the baby is sick," I said, and she got scared. Mia frowned. "But when I get sick, you hold me more, not less." I started to cry. My 7-year-old understood something a 35-year-old woman didn't. "Yes, baby," I said, hugging her. "That's exactly right." Right then, I made a choice. I wasn't going to force Jessica to take a baby she would resent. But I wasn't going to let her get away with destroying my life, either. I continued the pregnancy. It was lonely. People at the grocery store would ask, "Do you know what you're having?" And I would say a boy and smile, hiding the terror inside. I went to the specialist appointments alone. I learned about shunts and physical therapy. I prepared myself for the reality of raising a child with disabilities. But the anger was growing inside me like a poison. At 30 weeks, I received a letter in the mail. It was from Jessica's lawyer. They were offering me a settlement of $10,000 if I signed a document stating I would terminate the pregnancy or put the child up for adoption and never contact them again. They wanted to erase him. They wanted to buy my silence. I stared at the check. $10,000 would pay my rent for months. It would buy the special stroller I needed. But the condition was that I had to give him away. I ripped the check in half. Then I called Mrs. Alvarez. "They just made a mistake," I told her, my voice trembling with rage. "What happened?" she asked. "They put it in writing," I said. "They put in writing that they know the child exists and they are trying to pay to make him go away. Doesn't that prove they acknowledge he's theirs?" "Send it to me," Mrs. Alvarez said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. We didn't sue for custody. We sued for child support. In my state, genetic parents are liable for the support of their offspring, regardless of whether they want them. The contract protected them from having to *parent*, but Mrs. Alvarez found a loophole regarding financial abandonment. If I kept the baby, I was saving the state the cost of his care. Therefore, the state could go after the biological parents. We filed the motion 3 weeks before my due date. I didn't hear a word from Jessica, but I knew she got the papers because my mutual friends started blocking me on social media. Apparently, the story she told them was that I had gone crazy and tried to blackmail her. I didn't care. I had bigger things to worry about. My water broke on a Tuesday night. I drove myself to the hospital. The labor was fast and brutal. There was no supportive partner holding my hand. There was just a kind nurse named Brenda who wiped my forehead and told me I was a warrior. When he came out, the room was silent. I held my breath, waiting. And then a small, reedy cry filled the room. "He's here," the doctor said. They placed him on my chest. He was tiny. His head was slightly larger than average, and his legs were twisted, but he looked up at me with dark, serious eyes. He didn't look like a mistake. He didn't look like a liability. He looked like Leo. "Hi, Leo," I whispered, kissing his damp head. "I'm your mom." I felt a fierce, terrifying bond snap into place. It didn't matter that we didn't share DNA. We shared blood for 9 months. We shared the abandonment. We shared the survival. The next few days were a whirlwind of NICU doctors and surgeries. Leo needed a shunt placed in his brain to drain fluid. He needed casts on his legs. I slept in a chair next to his incubator, waking up every hour to check his monitors. On the 3rd day, Mrs. Alvarez walked into the NICU. She looked out of place in her sharp suit among the beeping machines. "How is he?" she asked softly. "He's a fighter," I said, stroking Leo's hand through the plastic opening. "Well," she said, opening her briefcase, "so are you." She handed me a document. The judge reviewed the emergency motion this morning. Because Jessica and Mark admitted paternity in the settlement offer they sent you, and because they refused to show up for the hearing, the judge ruled in our favor. I looked at the paper. It wasn't just child support. It was comprehensive medical coverage. Jessica and Mark were ordered to pay for all of Leo's medical expenses, therapy, and equipment until he was 18, plus a monthly stipend for his care that was based on their income, which was substantial. "They have to pay?" I asked, tears welling up. "They have to pay for everything," Mrs. Alvarez said, "and they have 0 custody rights. They relinquished those voluntarily." I let out a breath I didn't know I had been holding for 5 months. I didn't want their money for me. I wanted it for Leo. I wanted to know that he would have the best wheelchairs, the best therapists, the best life. Just then my phone buzzed. It was a text from a number I didn't recognize. I opened it. It was from Mark. "I'm sorry," it read. "She won't let me see him, but I'm glad he's okay. Take care of him." I looked at the phone, feeling a mixture of anger and pity. He was a coward. I didn't reply. I blocked the number. I turned back to my son. Leo is 2 years old now. He is in a wheelchair, and he has had 3 surgeries, but he has the loudest laugh I have ever heard. He loves music, he loves his big sister Mia, and he loves me. Jessica moved to a different city. I heard through the grapevine that she and Mark got divorced 6 months after Leo was born. Apparently, the stress of the lawsuit and the guilt tore them apart. Or maybe they just realized that a marriage built on perfect images can't survive a messy reality. Sometimes, when the check arrives in the mail from Mark's lawyer, I feel a twinge of sadness for them. They missed it. They missed the way Leo's face lights up when I walk in the room. They missed the triumph of him learning to hold a spoon. They missed the purest love I have ever known. They wanted a perfect baby. But they threw away a perfect soul. I used to think I was just the vessel, just the babysitter. But I learned that being a mother isn't about whose DNA is in the cells. It's about who stays when the rain starts falling. It's about who is standing in the parking lot when everyone else drives away. If this story touched you, please leave a comment below telling me about a time you found strength you didn't know you had. I read every single one.